Mami Shankaracharya Gurupada Saroruham Yasya Prasadan Modhoti Sarvajyoham Sadabhavam Amakshi Karunaroham Kamakoti Jagadgurum Chinmurtin Kalijaya Chitte Shankaracharya Mabhyayam Bhaktagri Giri Sampota Shankararnava Gamini Puratu Bhuvanam Punya Shri Guru Shritapaga Veda Vedanta Samrajya Dharma Kamartha Mokshadam Vidyaranyan Punyam Dovidyaranyam Achinati Sadashiva Shri Brahmendra Bhutaswamada Padukan Hiran Parashivendra Aryan Dhayami Satatam Hri Deve Dehecha Deshecha Bhaktarogya Sukhapradam Budha Pamara Sevyantam Shri Jayendra Namamyaham Namama Shankaranvakya Vijayendra Saraswatim Shri Gurum Shishtamarganu Netaram Sammati Pradam Satya Narayana Kshetrat Satyavardam Upagatam Ashraya Kamakotisham Satya Shri Chandrasekharam Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Vadhavam Asmadacharya Prajyantam Nande Guru Parampara. Our Shri Kanchi Kamakoti Maulana is Sarvagya Pithadipati Jagadguru Shri Shankara Vijayam Saraswati Shankaracharya Swamigal last year performed Abhisheka to Ramanatha Swami by his own hands and thereby completed his Rameshwara Tirtha Yatra, and starting on that auspicious occasion with the prarthana of doing Anusandhana of all the original Shankara Vijaya texts, we have started this prayatra in the name of Shri Shankara Bhagavatpāda rādhanā Upanya Mahala. And right now we are examining the Anandagiriya Shankara Vijaya, which was composed by one Anandagiri. And as the 31st part of this series, we are about to examine the 46th prakarana of this Shankara Vijaya. And there is a special aspect about this particular prakarana. Here it starts Tataha Kshapanakaha Paramagurunatva Idamaha. So in the previous two prakaranas, Acharya has spoken with the proponents of Chandramata, Kujamata, and so on. That is not only Surya, there were also some people who are doing Upasana of Chandra and Angaraka and all the other grahas and considered them as the Paradevatas, as per each own preference. And Acharya discussed with them and showed them that those grahas, the Upasana of them can definitely be done for those individual particular purposes. But to attain moksha, one has to attain Advaita Vidya only. That is what Acharya has been teaching everybody all along. And this person by name Kshapanaka, actually, he has entered the story much earlier. And it was actually in the 27th Prakarana. Though the Prakarana is actually mostly about Jaina Mata, that Prakarana actually starts Tataha Kshapanakaha. This is something that I've already read, but to recall. Tataha Kshapanakaha, Kaupina Matra Dhari, Gola Yantram, Turi Yantram, Karabhyan, Dhritva, Samagatya Acharya Swaminam Idava Praveet. So, even though their Jaina discussion is the major part of that prakarana, at the beginning of that prakarana, it speaks about somebody called Kshapanaka. See, nowadays, actually, the word Kshapanaka, it is used synonymously with Jaina and Bauddha. But we already have mentioned that in those days, there were nuanced differences between all those different matas. And but later on, because of all these matas almost going extinct, then nowadays we are not able to discern the difference between them. But here it is clarified. The name Kshapanaka seems to be, actually he is going to be discussing about Kala. And Kala is something that Kshapayati. Each second it passes and time swallows one by one. That is why it is said Kala Krediti Gachat Jayuhu. So that is the Kala Tattva is what this person he considers to be supreme, and he even says that he is that is Parabrahma. So let us recall the text which was read earlier. Gola Yantram Turi Yantram cha Karabhyan Dhritva Samagatya Acharya Swaminam Idabhabravid Bho Swaminne Madiya Matam Mati Vichitram Shrunu. So he carries that Gola Yantra and Turi. It seems to be something to rotate that Gola Yantra. And he comes to Acharya and he says, listen to my very unique mata. Kshapanakaha Purna Samaya Nama Aham. My name is Purna Samaya, full time. So Kala Janakam Suryam Gorena Turi Yantrena Badhva Samayajnanena Swarga Martya Patala Sthala Labhya Alabhya Shubha Ashubham Vachmi. So by this Gola, so I will be presently showing the Gola, and I track the movement of Surya using this yantra, and thereby I identify, I am able to know time, and through that, whatever is present in the Swargaloka, Manushya-loka, Patala-loka, whatever is obtainable, whatever is not obtainable, whatever is auspicious, whatever is inauspicious, everything I am able to identify and say. Kincha Kala eva Paramadevata. Kala is the greatest devata. Madpaksham Chalayitum Ishwaropi na samartha iti. So now even Ishwara cannot disregard my paksha, is what he says. Devam Jalpantam Acharyaha Pratyuvacha Bho Purna Samaya Samichina Muktam Bhavata. So Acharya speaks to him very cordially, saying that, yeah, okay, yes, you're saying, what you're saying is right. Tum Kalavid Kila. Tathaiva ahamapi. So actually, it is said that as we know, Bhagavatpāda is Shiva Avatara, and the Puranas say, give a unique name, this Ishvara, that Ishvara, along with that, they give a unique name for Shiva, that is Rasikeshwara. So he speaks very interestingly. So this Bhagavatpāda also says, so you know about time, right? So I also know about time. Tasman madashrayana agaccha yatra bhavat parikshochita kalagamanam tadanin tvam pritchami. So when the time to discuss with you comes, then I will talk to you. And surprisingly, that fellow, he was quite patient. He says, eva mukta sato tathaiva astu iti tam sarvada ashritya siddha sankalpaha bhavat. So he made a decision to stay with Bhagavatpāda, and later on then to wait the opportunity to discuss with him. That is quite special. So recent, there is in the previous prakarnas, when that what is related to this person, because he is talking about the gola, that is the sphere. Gola means sphere. Just like we have the bhugola or the terrestrial sphere, there is also the bhagola or the celestial sphere. And the movement of the sun and other planets is to be tracked in the celestial sphere, and we will be showing that gola presently. So, but the point is that along with Surya, the other grahas are also involved in his mata. He is tracking the movement of all these other grahas also. And when he found out that Acharya has been discussing with the followers of the other matas, Chandra mata, Kuja mata, and so on, then he feels that this is the opportunity for him to represent his own case. Tataha Kshapanakaha. So now I have come back to the 46th Prakarana, and now he starts. Tataha Kshapanakaha Paramagurun Natva Idamaha Swamin Bhavadashramasthera Maya Shanmasakalaha Anubhutaha. Oh Swamin, staying with you in your ashrama, I have spent 6 months. Actually, Bhagavatpāda is not in a single place. He has been moving, but he means the parivara of Bhagavatpāda. Itah param nanmata pariksham guru dhrutamaham yasyami. So, quickly examine my mata, let me leave. Actually, apart from this mata, everywhere else, Acharya has immediately taken up the discussion of the person who is coming and desiring to speak with him. For whatever reason, only in this particular case, Acharya has asked him to wait. And he has actually waited, and now he says that maybe he feels that he wants to leave. So he says, Dhrutamaham yasyami, let me immediately, quickly leave. So you give me my chance. Ityukta Shankara Guru Ravi, Tanmata Parishilanartham idamabravi. So let to examine his mata. Bhavat Karadhrita Yantra Dvayasya Lakshana Mukta Shighram Gacha. So you describe the Lakshana of the two yantras in your head, and you can quickly leave. Acharya's intent is not to make him leave, but just reflecting his own words. Satu Kshapanakaha Punaha Paramagurun Natta Savadhanena Shruyajamiti Vigyapya. So that Kshapanaka, again he comes and does namaskara to Acharya, and he is quite, he has humility, and he asks Acharya, please listen to me with attention. Iti Vigyapya Idam Kela Gola Yantram. So he shows the Gola Yantra. So let me also do the same. So this is a modern version of what would have been that Gola Yantra. So let me read the passage, and I will also step by step explain this. Tadantarvartino bhupindasya nityam adhavpadanashilasya anukula vritya sarvagraha riksha mandalopetam samvatsaram kalachakram anugacchati. Tan madhyastha grahastu chakramegat pragudayam pratyakastamayan janti. So this Kala Chakra, this outer sphere, the black sphere, obviously the dark night sky. So that Kala Chakra is called a Samvatsara Kala Chakra. It is also called the Bhagola or the Khagola. Kha means sky and the Gola of the sky. Or Bhagola. Bha means stars and the sphere which contains which on which the stars are seen. So that Bhagola is represented outside, and the middle of this Bhagola we can see that there is the blue Bhugola, the earth, the terrestrial sphere. So he says for whatever reason, he says that this Bhugola keeps falling down, and the Bhagola also keeps falling down along with it. Of course, Acharya is going to reply to this later on, but this is what he says. And the Bhagola, it has all the planets on it, and it has also stars on it, and that Bhagola is rotating. As per his mata, that Bhagola is rotating towards the west. So it appears that all the planets, including the sun, planets in the sense all the grahas, including the sun and all the other planets, they are rising in the east and setting in the west. But as per this Siddhanta, it is because of the rotation of the Bhagola, that is the celestial sphere. And all these grahas are present on the Kala Chakra, which is the same as the celestial sphere. That is because of the movement of the sun time. 1 year passes when the sun starts from here. Here you can see that 0 hours, that marking, and there is this green path. Actually, this up and down is actually north and south. So the sun is initially marked here at that 0h 0 hour point, and each hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, and so on, it is marked here. And maybe in the olden days they would have marked the nadikas. So the sun is moving towards north here, and he goes there towards north up to a certain extent, and then he starts going back south, and then he reaches. There is this red-colored circle here in the middle. It is called the Nadi Vritta. Nadi, as I said, because of the Nadikas, which would have been marked there, the moment of time. This is because of the rotation of the earth. But the green circle, it is called the Kranti Vritta, in which the Sankranti or the movement of the sun happens. So, more this will be further details will be given presently. So, this sun is going towards north. On the Kranti, with respect to this red circle, he is going towards north on the Kranti Vritta, and then he again comes back towards south. At one point, he crosses the red circle, the celestial equator, actually, it is the Nadi Vritta, which is corresponding to the terrestrial equator, the equator on the earth. And then he crosses the red circle and he goes towards south. You can see the other points marked with other yellow representations of the sun. And then he goes to south to a particular extent, and then he comes back to this point, right? So this entire time takes a period of 1 year. That is why it is called a Samvatsara Kala Chakra, right? And this Samvatsara Kala Chakra, that celestial sphere, it has all the planets also on it. Obviously, not all the planets are there present in the same place. So we can say that there are many parts to the celestial sphere, many layers are there, and obviously the moon is much closer, and Shanisara is Saturn is much farther away, and so they are all in various positions on that at various distances on the celestial sphere. Kala Rupa Anuvrittim Ashritaha. So they follow the moment of the passage of time, and Kalena Nitya Brahmana Shila. They keep moving as per time. Ataha Purvapara Yamya Uttara Vrittadvaya Sanyoga Sthana Datta Talamsham Khandadvayagranibadham Kranti Vrittam Syat. So we can imagine this is a graphical diagrammatic representation. We can imagine that in the olden days, either through bamboo or some pliable wood which can bend, they would have created this yantra, or it might also have been made via using metal pieces or metal strands. So, and this the grid formation that you can see here, this is 15 degrees, 30 degrees, and so on. So this grid formation would also have been created using those bamboo or metal pieces, and we can see that this green path which is shown here, this green path would also have been given a representation. Why this green path? Because as mentioned earlier, tasmin kila rashi sthaneshu sancharam kurvan graharat suryo vartate. Surya, which is said to be the king of the grahas, he travels across all the rashis, 30 degrees to a rashi. He travels along this green path. Sarva Khechara Mandalashrita Graha Golam, and all the grahas are present in this path, along almost on the same path as the sun. Swa Urdhasta Khagola Antarvartamana Madhya Chinna Marga Vidham. So the Khagola which is there up, and there are many paths along the Khagola, or the many circles along the Khagola also, and these are intersecting one another. Kha madhyastha graha riksha darshana adi kala swarupa jnanan muktihi. So using this yantra, we can understand how the grahas are moving, and through that we can identify the proper time for doing anything. So we can understand time, and through that understanding time, we can attain moksha. How come? Because Kaleva Brahma, Ataha Kalavid Brahmaviditi Niravadyam. So he quotes some Tarka Shastra or other Shastra saying Dikkala Oneshwara Ditirichete and so on. He says that Kala is Parabrahma, and so by knowing Kala, one has understood Parabrahman, so one will attain moksha. So actually this Gola Bandha is something that has been given very much importance in our traditional texts. And all the old texts, this Golabandha has been described because it is very important. Spherical trigonometry, or the study of trigonometry, sine, cosine, and so on, which is called jya, kotik jya, etc. in our traditional language, it has to be studied on the sphere, because the nature of the these on the sphere, because the sky appears to us in the form of a sphere, the earth is almost a sphere. So all these positions relative to one another, we have to study specially. So because of that, we have to know Gola. See, if at all we could, if other something else would have been representable in the form of a flat picture, but here the subject matter itself is in the form of a sphere, so it has to be considered in the form of a sphere. So this Golabandha has been given very much importance. So actually, Bhaskaracharya in his Siddhanta Shiromani, he gives the Ganita, and after that Ganita Adhyaya, he starts the Gola Adhyaya, in which he has himself commented on his own text, and he gives the justification why this Gola Adhyaya, what is the necessity, because you have already given all the calculations in the Ganita Adhyaya. Then Bhaskaracharya says, no, that is not sufficient, because we cannot simply say that you have to add this, subtract this, multiply this. We have to justify why this has to be added, subtracted, multiplied, divided, and so on. For that, this representation is necessary. And furthermore, if at all somebody asks a doubt, so we ourselves may get a doubt. So then we have to prove that what we have said is correct. So for that also, this Golabandha is very important and necessary. That is why he is giving so much importance to this. So, but anyway, the problem is that, as mentioned, even in the earlier Prakaranas, we have seen that all these things are described in the Shastra. There is no problem about this Golabandha and so on. But the problem is where this person says that Kala itself is Brahma, and by knowing Kala one can attain moksha. This is not acceptable. This though Acharya, even in the earlier Prakaranas, Acharya has refuted that particular part of it which is not acceptable. Not entire Bada of the Purabakshi, it is not refuted by Acharya. इति पूर्वपक्षे प्राप्ते श्री परमगुरुः पठति भोः क्षपणका कालस्य ब्रह्मत्वं तावत् प्रतिपादितं किल तद् अत्यन्त अग्राह्यं कथं तस्य जन्यत्वदर्शनात् सावयवत्वात्. So he says, oh Kshapanaka, you said that Kala is Brahma, but that is not acceptable. So how come? Because Acharya says Kala cannot be Brahma. So actually, in all the other Prakaranas, we have been discussing the Tattvas by words alone, but this particular section, an entire Jyotish Shastra, Bini Jyotish Shastra Patha has been given by Acharya in this section, and in the further section there will be Mimamsa discussion. So we felt that it is very important to show at least these pictures to give at least a general idea of the subject. So, but now back to the discussion, Acharya says that Kala is also created. How come? it is Savayava. See, earlier in another Prakarana, we have also said that there was an Acharya by name Udayanacharya, and he proved that Ishvara exists by showing that all these mountains which we see, these mountains were created by somebody. How come they were created by somebody? Because they also have parts. Whatever has parts was created at some point of time. So through that, there should have been somebody who created it. So likewise, Kala has parts. He will be showing how that is so. And because of that, Kala was also created. And furthermore, there are direct some Shruti Vakyas which show that Kala was born. Just like we say from Atma Swarupa, Akasha was born. Likewise, Kala was born. Such sentences also will be quoted now. First of all, but Acharya quotes this, what is called the Surya Namaskara Prashna, because Surya, as mentioned earlier, is very important for the Kalajnana. And that in that Prashna, thus it is described as if there is a river which is flowing from a permanent perennial source, and lots of other rivers, smaller rivers, come and join to this river. So this river becomes very wide. So this river never dries out. Likewise, various from various various kinds of various parts of time, all those parts of time come and take part in Kala. Smaller parts of time and larger parts of time, all these are totally considered as Kala. So because of this, this Kala is something that is continuously flowing on and on like a river. So this is the Shruti Pramana, which indicates that Kala has parts that we very well know. And likewise, there is also another Shruti Vakya which says that Samvatsaraha Ajayat. Kala, Samvatsara means Kala here. Time was created, was born. So when it is obvious that time was also created, how can we say that it was Brahmavastu? Because whatever is Brahmavastu, it has to be Shashvata, and whatever was created cannot be Shashvata. And then Acharya also considers other aspects of what he said. His Acharya says, Golantastha Prithvi Nityam Adhav Patati Tukte Tatrabhinamanam Bhume Adhav Padana Hetu Pramana Bhavad. You say that Bhumi, which is present in the middle of the Khagola, you say that it is always falling down. How there is no pramana for this, there is no reason for the Bhumi to fall. Actually, the Siddhanta Vakya says, Madhye Samanta Dandasya Bhugolo Vyomni Tishtati. So, this is all some of these verses are also found in later texts, but these are some generic, very important principles which have been there from time to time, have been passed along through the generations of this Jyotisha Vidya. So this verse actually says that Bhugola is there in the middle of the Brahmanda, the entire creation, Akasha. It is not, we are not saying that it is in the exact middle of the Brahmanda, but somewhere in there. So we cannot see, if at all we say that Bhugola keeps falling down, then we have to say that at one point of time, it goes and reaches the bottom of that Brahmanda. All these is meaningless. And there is no reason for the Bhumi to fall down. Kincha bhumishtha purushena gaganam pratyutshiptam pashanadi vastu bhumyuparyeva kshipram nibatati. Whatever stone is thrown towards the sky by a person who is there on the earth, it falls back onto the earth only. So you know this. How can you say that this Bhumi falls down elsewhere? So there is no meaning to that. And Acharya further goes on to speak. Acharya actually, he shows that he is not saying all this with due to ignorance of Jyotish Shastra. Acharya is about to show that he in fact knows so much Jyotish Shastra that he is able to teach things to the actual those who are claiming to be proponents of that Jyotish Shastra. So further content is on those lines. Lankakhyat swastikat swastika paryantam akshamsha praptaha. So let me show another picture. So here we have a place called Lanka in this diagram. So we have seen this diagram earlier, and here we have this red colored circle, which I told you is called celestial equator, and which is corresponding to the Earth's equator, terrestrial equator. So here you have this terrestrial equator in this map form, and this place called Lanka Actually, lots of names of places which are used here, they do not refer to whatever may be called today by those names. They are only indicative terms used for a technical purpose. So here, Lanka doesn't mean this Lanka which is nearby Bharat. So we know that Lanka is somewhere towards the south of Bharat, and based on that, this particular place called Lanka, it is there. It is a point in the ocean towards the south of Bharat, which is on the terrestrial equator, and which is directly south of Ujjaini Pattana. So why Ujjaini? Ujjaini is the place of Bhagavan Mahakala, and that Mahakala is the Adhipati of Kala, and he will Surya goes up to that point towards north, and it is considered that Surya does not cross Mahakaleshwara to go further north. So it is at the end of Surya's Uttarayana movement. And because Bhagavan Mahakaleshwara is the Adhipati of Kala, so that line, north-south line, which is called meridian of longitude, it is considered to be the prime meridian of our traditional Bharatiya Ganita. So today we have prime meridian which is passing through Greenwich, but in our tradition, the prime meridian was passing through this Mahakaleshwara, Ujjaini only. And based on that where the point where that prime meridian intersects the equator, that place is called Lanka. And our place, we know that today our Bharat is towards the north of this Lanka, towards the north of the equator. So that is what Acharya says, Lankakhyat Swastikat Swaswastika Paryantam Akshamsha Prapta. So we have a mark at Lanka, and we have mark at our own place on this gola. Then the distance between those two marks is called a latitude, Akshamsha. Atha Swastikad Tadagrat Swakhanda Swaswastikat Yam Yetan Nitante Nibaddham Vrittam Kranti Mandalam. So this path which we spoke about earlier, this green path, it is placed at an inclination to this equator. So this because it shows the movement of the sun towards north and south in the Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. Surya Tatra Kila Rashin Anubhavati. So in that, as mentioned earlier, Surya passes through all the Rashis in that, moving in that path only. So that is called the Kranti Vritta. And now here, in this particular map, so in our tradition, we were very clear to say that the Bhumi is a gola, it is a sphere, it is not flat or any other such shape. So this particular description, it is clearly showing that one place where sunrise occurs, sunset will occur elsewhere, which is only possible if the earth is a sphere, right? So this representation shows that on the equator, if you can go around the earth. So if you divide the distance into 4, so 1/4 of the distance from Lanka, if you go towards west, there is this point called Romaka. As mentioned earlier, we know that Rome today, it is towards our west. It is not directly on the equator. Definitely, we know that even in this picture, we can see that Rome is far towards the north, Europe is far towards the north, Italy. But again, as I mentioned earlier, these words are used in a purely technical sense. So this point, which is 1/4 of the way across the equator, this is towards the west of Lanka, that Romaka. And further towards the west of that Romaka is Siddhapura. That place is there. And this is somewhere towards the south of North America and to the west of South America, somewhere in the eastern Pacific Ocean. And again, 1/4 of the distance towards further west, which is towards the east of Lanka on this side of the picture. That place, it is somewhere towards north of Australia in the western Pacific Ocean. It is called Yavakoti. So actually, we know that Java, what is called Java today, it is Yavakadvipa or Yavadvipa. It is towards the east of Bharat. So based on that, this place which is on the Koti of that, the farther beyond that Yavakadvipa, this is called Yavakoti here. So these 4 are points which are used to illustrate something. So this illustration that whatever is given in this shloka, it is said this shloka, it is also seen in Aryabhatiya's Siddhanta Grantha. This is a very traditional shloka. It says, Udayoyo Lankayam Sostamaya Savitureva Siddhapure Madhyano Yavakotyam Romaka Ardharatrancha. So you can see that this picture shows you that point of time where the sun is rising at Lanka. So the bright portion is towards the east of Lanka and the dark portion is to the west of Lanka, means that bright portion is coming up. So that is sunrise. And at the same time, Udaya at Lanka is the Astamaya at Siddhapura. So halfway across the globe, so you see that the darkness is coming up and the brightness is going away. Darkness is towards the east, so it is going to come up. So that is sunset, right? And Madhyanho Yavakotyam, again towards the right of this picture, you can see that that place called Yavakoti is in the directly at the middle of the daytime. So that is Madhyana. And Romaka Vishaya Ardharatrancha. So Romaka, this point, it is in the middle of midnight. So this it is something that is known to us, that this is caused obviously because of the spherical nature of the earth. And there is this other picture which also needs to be considered. And as seen in this picture, the first picture, when Surya goes towards north and comes back towards south and so on, we see that, in this picture, the first, the sun symbol which is marked at 0 hours, and from this point, we can see that on this point, the sun is also on the equator, and from there, the sun travels towards north for 3 months, and then he turns south, and again for 3 months he comes back and he reaches the red circle. And from that point, crossing that point, when he goes towards further south, again in 3 months he goes to the south extreme. So this 3 months and 3 months, total 6 months is Dakshinayana and 6 months is Uttarayana that we know. And again from this point, again 3 months he crosses and he goes towards north and comes back to the red color circle, the Nadi Vrittam. Right? So this is also, Acharya also speaks about this. Acharya says that during this movement, north-south movement, we can consider that there are 3 circles towards the north and south of the equator. Here, this equator is in magenta color, and you have 3 further circles towards the north up to the maximum extent of the sun's northward movement, and 3 further circles towards the south again to the maximum extent. So you see this yellow represents the overall movement of the sun towards the north and south. So we know that Udagarkeshu, in the Uttarayana, he moves towards north and he comes back towards the south. This is described in much detail. Udagarkeshu Meshadi Shatkam Anubhavati Kramotkama Margamashritya Tadardhan Mithurante Yamyayanarambha Siddhayeva Yamye Dhanurante Udang Marganupulavrite Udagayanam Prasiddhamiti Sampradaya. So all these are quite well known. And further, Acharya speaks about another point. So regarding the movement of the grahas, you said that that person said that the grahas are positioned in the Khagola, and the Khagola is rotating towards west. Okay, even if you accept that the Khagola is rotating towards west, we have to accept that the grahas are separately also moving slowly towards east. Because that is why Acharya says, Shri nakshatre khamadhyangate tadapekshaya bharanigala prageva vartate tat prakritikadi tathaiva ashvinistha grahaha bharanineva ayati tatrastha kritikam ityadi pragyatif pratyaksha drishta. So we see that when a graha is present in the sky at Ashwini nakshatra, then he moves towards Bharani nakshatra and then Kritika and so on. So he the grahas keep moving towards east. And further, Acharya says like this, not only towards east, Graha Gratirapi Shodha, Purva, Apara, Udak Yamya. So as Graha moves towards east, again there will be something called Vakragati, and because of that, the Graha will come back towards west for some time and then again go further east. And also, as seen for the sun, the Graha will have northward and southward movement to an extent also. And Urdhva Adhara Cheti. So even the distance of the Graha from the we examine closely, we can see that the bimba of the planets, it will be slightly larger when the graha is relatively closer. Close doesn't mean very close, but relatively in their own space, they will be slightly closer, because of which they appear slightly bigger. and then when they move slightly further away, they will become slightly smaller. That mandala, the disk of the graha will appear. So we have to understand that these tattvas are also there. And further, finally, Surya is considered to be the Kala Janaka, he is the cause of the Kala, and he, along with Chandra, that from that only we get all our Panchanga details. Tadvashat Srishtyadi Kala Jataha Shashwat Pragdishan Charatoho Surya Chandrayoho Darshante Sangavas Sambhavati. At the end of the Tithi called Amavasya, the Surya and Chandra will come together. तस्मात् शीघ्रगत्या पुरोगते चंद्रे भानो पृष्ठस्थे द्वादशांशमितं यदा भवति तदा प्रतिपद उत्पद्यते. So when the Chandra, he keeps moving towards east, he is faster than the sun, and so the sun lags behind. And when the distance of 12 degrees it is caused between the sun and the moon, and at that point of time we say that Pratipad Tithi, Prathama Tithi starts. And again from there, again 12 degrees when that crosses, Prathama Tithi ends at the end of 12 degrees, and then from there up to 24 degrees, Dvitiya Tithi Ityadyutpatti Tithi Evam Anyasam Tithi Nam Jatavyam Tithyartham Karanam. And so this period is called one Tithi, and a half of a Tithi is called Karana. And earlier we have spoken about the positioning of the planets or the bolas in the sky, in the celestial sphere. Based on that, the Vasaras have occurred. I'm not going into too much detail. Already lots of details we are giving here just to give an idea of the content here. Lots more is there to be learned, but we are just giving a hint. Tajor Yoga Yoga Siddhi. So the longitude of the sun and the longitude of the moon, by adding them, the yoga means adding, because through that yoga siddhi we get what is called the yoga. And all these Panchanga Ganitas are obtainable from the movement of the sun and the moon only. And finally, what you said, the Kshapanaka said that Kala is the controller of everything, and because of the fear of Kala only all these grahas are moving. But there is no pramana to say that Kala has any Chaitanya at all. Only Paramatma has Chaitanya, is of the Chaitanya Swarupa, and that Paramatma is whom the Shruti points out, saying that because of his fear only all these grahas are moving. Shruti Virodhat Tathahi. So he quotes the Taittiriya Upanishad Vakya, and it says that because of the fear of that Paramatma only, Agni, Indra, Surya, Vayu, and even that Mrityu, thinking of whom everybody is afraid, even that Mrityu is under the control of, or acts under the with respect towards, with fear and devotion towards that Paramatma only. So, O Kshapanaka, Tasmati Kshapanaka, Alo Brahmeti Buddhim Parityaja. So you should discard this false understanding that Kala is the Advaita, is the Parabrahma Tattva. Shuddha Advaita Vrittim Ashraya, Taya Jagrada Javasthat Tritayati Manonmanim Prumukha Jnatva Mukto Bhavishyasi. So if you understand Advaita, see, you will understand that Manonmani. What is Manonmani? See, we are examining, doing all this research and all this tracking of the celestial movements and so on, all these calculations, everything in this state of waking state. And beyond this waking state, there is the state of dreams. And beyond that state, there is the state of deep sleep. And beyond that, that Shuddha Chaitanya, that Sakshi Swarupa, that Sakshi Swarupa is observing everything that is happening in Jagrata Avastha. It is also observing our dreams, and it is also even observing that deep sleep. Even though at the time of deep sleep we do not realize it, later on we remember that we were in deep sleep. So definitely that Sakshi is there. So that Sakshi is called Manonmani. It is beyond that Manas. And that Manonmani, that Chit Shakti, which we mentioned earlier, that Chit Shakti should be learned through Guru Mukha and Mukto Bhavishyasi. Through that you will attain moksha. Iti, only by knowing that Chit Shakti, that Advaita Tattva, you will attain moksha, and not through, or just through Kalagyana. Through Kalagyana, as you mentioned earlier, you can know Shubha Phala, and you can, what is the auspicious time for doing something and so on, and what is going to happen. All that you may be able to understand through Kalagyana, but you cannot attain moksha through Kalagyana. Iti Niyamitaha Kshapanakaha Paramagurum Natta Shuddha Advaita Vidyashritaha Bhavat. So through this instruction of the Acharya, the Kshapanaka accepted it, and he did Namaskara to Acharya, and he also accepted the Shuddha Advaita Vidya. Thus ends this 46th Prakarana, and with the Anugraha of the Guru. In the later Prakarana, you will have even a Mimamsa, small Mimamsa Patha will be there, and with the Anugraha of the Guru, we will examine those Prakaranas in upcoming sessions. Sarvavyapaka Chaitanya Rupena Adhyapi Tishtari Sayeva Shankaracharyaha Gurur Mukti Pratastham. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara.